Hello and welcome to episode 8 of ForMorSport. I'm your host, Johnny, as always, but this time we have a different face of us. My partner in crime, Chris, unfortunately was not able to be with us today. He's got other things he's got to deal with, and I forgive him. I just about forgive him that he's not here today. But we have with us instead the Manchester United warrior, Keith. How are you doing, sir?
I'm all right, and I apologise for the face if that's offending anyone, but it's the only one I got. So,
So how have you been? I know that Sunday's show was crazy, wasn't it? On Sunday,
it was.
We had a good number of people in the live, and it was really, really awesome.
Yeah.
And I know there was a few shots were fired. Do you notice
I
that?
know.
There was a few shots were fired when we were able to go. United fans, Liverpool fans, Chelsea fans. We had a pop at Tottenham, pop at Arsenal. It just felt like it was a free-for-all. But you came out of that unscathed. And amazingly, when I said, Keith, are you available? You're like, yes, I'll come on again. So
I have no life. It's fine.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, guys, if there's one thing I would say, it's very difficult to have a football show when you're having the international break, because especially if we're focused on our clubs and what we, how our clubs are, we want to talk about them. But if it's international break, you can't switch off. But this international break has been insane. There have been some quite amazing scorelines. I mean, just to give you an example, Norway, they scored 9 past Armenia. And I found out something really fascinating today. I was with a colleague at work, and I was saying to him, Norway, they beat Armenia 9-0. And he said, who scored? I mean, obviously, Haaland scored. He said, who else? And I said, there's a guy, I think his name was Jay King. I had no idea who he was. He went, what, the Bournemouth striker? I was like, Bournemouth? I went, no way, it's not the same guy. He's like, yeah. I went, he's at Watford now, isn't he? I went, yeah. I went, he's a Norwegian. I had no idea.
I didn't know. That's Josh King, isn't it?
Joshua King
Josh
is
King.
A Norwegian international, has been playing for Norway forever.
Yeah.
And absolutely, when you hear the name Joshua King, you kind of think he's English. He's no Norwegian, and he scored a hat-trick against Armenia. Well played to him. I tip my cap to you, sir. If you can score a hat-trick, even if it is against Armenia, the fact is your name is on the score sheet. So well done to you, Jay King. I couldn't believe that was done. So that was amazing.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Norway are out, aren't they? They've not qualified, and I do think it's a shame that we won't see Haaland at the World Cup.
Yeah,
I think the World Cup should be the world's best players, and the same. We're going to come on to it, but there's another big name that won't be there as well. And you sort of feel the World Cup should have the big name, shouldn't it?
I know, but one thing I have learned is with World Cups, you earn the right to get there. If you have done all you can, through the qualifiers, and you've earned the right to be there. And I always find it fascinating when I see teams that are there or thereabouts, and it's sometimes it's because they haven't shown enough respect internationally to some of these clubs, and they've ended up at the other end where they're now in a playoff situation, where we've seen Italy when they were put to the sword by the North Macedonia. Who did I know we talked about this last time, but I was literally jaw dropped when I realized that North Macedonia had knocked out the European champions.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things where you kind of go, well, it could happen. I mean, it's happened to England. I mean, England have not qualified for tournaments before themselves. So it's not like this is it can happen to the best of us. But
and they're a good side. I mean, coming into the Euros as well, it wasn't a fluke that they won it. Chiesa and the good players. I mean, Italy are strong. There's no 2 ways about it. We're not talking about a poor Italy side here, are we? So,
and I don't know if you remember, Nana made a really very, very key point where he said, "What would you rather? Would you rather be European champions but not qualify for the World Cup, or would you rather be a finalist in both tournaments and don't win?" And initially, I did think, I don't know, that's a tough one, but cups are cups, aren't they? You want to win.
Yeah.
I'm just disappointed that we won't see Italy.
Yeah.
Italy are probably not the best qualifying team, but they're brilliant in tournaments.
Yeah.
We're not going to see them
They
now.
were great to watch. Interesting, slight segue here, but funny story about Italy. My wife's not really a football fan, although she does. She grew up. My dad was a massive football fan, and we used to go see Luton sometimes with him. But she'll watch the international tournaments because we quite often pile around my friend's house. Who's got a pub in his garden, and we quite often sit and watch the tournaments and make a noise in his back garden. But my missus, the only thing she realised when we were watching Italy during the Euros, was we were looking at Immobile, who was up front for them, and she sort of looked at me and sort of said, "His name's Immobile, basically." He said, "What kind of name is that for a footballer? What's his movement like?" I don't know. She found that very amusing. That it was like you can't have an immobile footballer, surely.
No, but he was known for he scored quite a lot of good goals.
He was.
And the thing is, there's been I don't know if you've noticed. Well, you probably have noticed. There's been a mixture of very, very serious games with friendlies, and you look at the teams that are not going to the tournament. Literally not going. You think, but you're playing friendlies because maybe when that schedule was being made, they assumed, we're in the tournament, we're going to be going there. We need a few games under our belt. I mean, how do you think you would feel if you were knocked out in the playoffs and you still got to play a friendly in a nothing game? How do you think you would? Could you prepare yourself mentally for that? Do you think that's something you could do? Or would it be difficult to go out on the field and do it?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, I remember England not making what was the World Cup. It was '94.
Okay.
And I remember going to Wembley to watch a friendly.
Yeah.
And I can't remember England were playing that. It might have been Greece.
Right.
And they were going to the World Cup and England hammered them 4-0. And it was like, and you're sitting there thinking, how are England not going to the World Cup and this team are? How is that possible? I mean, they obviously got up for that. But yeah, you end up with this sort of summer of friendlies, or you're helping other teams warm up for the tournament, which must be soul destroying. You're just cannon fodder because teams wanted to play England because good opposition, but they're not going to the World Cup. So yeah, I think as a player, that must be you must just want to go home. You must get to a point where you just feel like, am I hurt? Am I injured? Do I need to go back to my club doctor? It must be really difficult if that's happened. Definitely.
When you look at the England game, did you watch the England game?
I caught the second half.
Yeah, I mean, it was a strange game because obviously it was a very experimental side.
Yeah.
There was controversy from the very beginning, and I don't know. I'd like to know your thoughts on, your main defender Maguire, being booed. Being booed by the England fans. What's your take? How do you, what's your take on it?
My feeling is, I as you probably found out on Sunday, I like to go against the grain a little bit. I don't always follow other people's opinions. And Harry Maguire has been, there's no getting away from it. He's been poor this season. He's been poor. There have been lots of high profile issues, mistakes. The Liverpool game was a catastrophe for him, and he has been below par for whatever reason. But I just think that a lot of it is because of the way that football is commentated on social media and everything else. He starts to get blamed for stuff that is nothing to do with him. I'm surprised he hasn't been blamed for the war in Ukraine. But it's astonishing how Twitter goes mad with so-called fans turning on their own players, and I'm not a fan of it. You can call a player out if they're not having a good game, and we'll all do that. That's what football fans are about. But when that gets abusive and when that becomes over the top, it's wrong, and it destroys people's confidence. And you can clearly see he's a man who is low on confidence in his own ability, with the whole nation doubting your ability. How can you perform in that situation?
But do you think he deserves to be in the England squad?
Well, that's a different question altogether, isn't it?
Because the reason I say that, the reason I ask that question is because the England fans that booed him, are they booing him because they don't like him, or are they booing him because they think that he's not good enough to be in the England defence? Because he's had a bad couple of months with United, and he's
had a bad season. He's been awful since.
He's kind of been but and I don't know if anyone else would agree or disagree. He hasn't played that badly for England, has he?
Well, but bearing in mind he was part of a defence that didn't concede a goal till the semi-finals in the Euros.
That's what I mean. He
and he scored. I mean, he can't really do much more than that. So yes, you're right. And Luke Shaw as well, fantastic in the tournament. Has had an iffy season for United. So, and people do suffer these sort of tournament hangovers. It does happen, in football. One thing I would say about Maguire, his problem is he lacks pace, which everyone can see. He's not the quickest defender. Now, there have been a lot of very good defenders that didn't have pace. Martin Keown didn't have pace. John Terry didn't have pace. All right, they played in a different era slightly, but, you don't have to have pace to be a good defender.
You can read the ball. You can read the game.
Yeah, he looks really suspect when he's playing with Lindelof. Mm-hmm. But put him alongside Varane, and I was reading this statistic a week or so ago. Atletico Madrid, when United lost to Atletico Madrid, that's the first game that United have lost all season with Varane and Maguire starting.
Right.
So it does make you realise that if you've got the right player with him, he can be a solid defender. But I don't think it works with him and Lindelof. I quite like Eric Bailly, but very injury prone.
Injury prone, yeah. I mean, the thing is, you talk about, sorry, I've spoken to a friend before where he said that John Terry was brilliant, but John Terry was even better when he was with Carvalho. And maybe that's the same kind of connection with Maguire. But Maguire was outright just booed. Like that was honestly, I was embarrassed. I felt I actually genuinely felt sorry for him because I thought he's now got to play in front of these guys. That he's got to play his best game. Obviously, the Ivory Coast are not. I don't want to disrespect any people that follow the country, but the Ivory Coast team, obviously, once they got the red card, was no longer.
It wasn't a game. It wasn't a game, really, was it?
Yeah,
after that?
Exactly. And I don't know how much. I mean, it was an experimental team. I just felt that when you boo a player like that, especially when his confidence is low, you can either go in two ways. You can either go, right, I'm going to dig my heels in and I'm going to play fantastically well, but a large chunk of players, they go in the opposite direction, and they end up wiltering and then end up. And I wonder, where do you think Maguire is going to end up here? I mean,
it's difficult to say. It's difficult to say because we've got the uncertainty over the future coach as well. We don't know. I mean, Rangnick seems to be sticking with him. I mean, as a coach, you've got two options, haven't you? You can either knuckle down behind the player and say, no, this is our defender, this is our captain, like it or lump it, or you can pull them out of the limelight and you can give them a 3 weeks off and send them to Dubai or whatever and say, look, go and clear your head and come back. And that does happen sometimes, you know what I mean? Or you can have a situation where, you can fake an injury or something and that happens. And to be fair, Maguire hasn't done that. He hasn't shirked anything. At no point has he ever, and I would give this to him, at no point has he ever looked like his head's dropping or he doesn't, he's bang up for every game. He's there and he's playing and he's obviously doing his best. I mean, about him getting blamed for things that aren't really his fault. I'm not on Twitter, but I read a report on Twitter when we played Atletico in the first leg. Now, I don't know if you remember the goal that Atletico scored. Ball came in from a corner and it got whipped in, and the guy headed it in off the post, and it was a.
Right. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
It was an absolute brilliant goal. I mean, it was the cross was pinpoint. The header was magnificent. No goalkeeper stopping that. And on Twitter it was going mad that Maguire should have tracked his run and stopped him. And you watch the goal and you go, unless he'd grown wings, there's no way he's stopping that. You know what I mean? It was just if you could criticise anyone, you maybe could have criticised the fullback for not getting out and stopping the cross. But all right, that happens. Second balls, everything else. United are not good at that generally at the moment. But once that ball's whipped in, and you're thinking, hang on, you can't blame him every time United concede a goal. It's not fair. There are lots of other players not putting in a shift at United. He isn't the worst one.
But obviously, a lot of the pressure of keeping goals out falls on his shoulders.
Yeah.
United have historically always had a very strong central, going back to the days of Stevie Bruce and Pallister, and then it was like people like Vidic, Jaap Stam. I mean, there's been a conveyor belt of really strong Ferdinand. Sorry, I can't believe I didn't mention his name. There's a lot of really strong defenders that United have had and relied on, and Maguire at the moment is in that role, and in him they trust. They put a lot of there's a lot of effort in him, partly because obviously United have got going forwards. United have got a really good, strong attacking team, and on paper, they are very good, but they just seem to not have it on the other direction.
And you've got to have confidence in what's behind you to have the freedom to attack.
And I think does it also? Sorry, is there also? I mean, I know this is old news now, but obviously United paid a lot of money for him. I mean, the weight of that could that still be on his shoulder? Could still be playing? I mean, because it's a very expensive buy from Leicester to United.
But bear in mind, a player doesn't set his own transfer fee.
No, exactly.
So I always find that difficult whenever you get a situation where it's like, that this player cost this much money, they should be ashamed of themselves. That's between football clubs and agents. They don't set their own fee. They don't. That's just what you're worth. What someone's prepared to pay for you. That's the way that is. But obviously, in the broader context of the game, you look at him. They've played Virgil van Dijk money. And they haven't got Virgil van Dijk. And there's no two ways about that. You compare the two players and there's no comparison,
That's what popped into my head when you said that. I went, wow, they spent Virgil van Dijk money, but they don't have Virgil van Dijk.
No. As I say, I'm defending him to a point in as much as I think it's unfair the way he's being treated. But at the same time, a professional top-level athlete who has got the team around him, who's got the coaching around him, who's got all of that, he needs to find a way to sort it out and sort it out quick. There'll be no hiding place, under the next manager. It'll be a case of, you can't carry on like that. Carry on like that.
Obviously, there is a little bit of, I'm not quite sure of the contracts for who's going to be boss there. Next season. I know that there was talk about the Ajax.
So Haag and Pochettino are the front runners.
Yeah. I mean, this is your own personal opinion, obviously. Do you think Pochettino would be a good fit?
No.
For United?
No.
And if not, why not?
Because the biggest criticism of Ole Solskjaer, he's never won anything. So, how is Pochettino an upgrade from that? He's never won anything.
I mean, you got to the finals, though, didn't you? You got to.
Okay, I'll defend the fact. That he took Spurs pretty far without spending money.
Yeah.
Now that was impressive. The fact that he got to, they just spent nothing for like 3 years, and he got them to a Champions League final. So fair enough. I give that, and I did like his brand of football.
Yeah,
I would say, what Spurs did under him. So he's got plus points for me. And had Paris Saint-Germain have won the Champions League, because I don't consider, I can't disrespect people here, but Paris Saint-Germain winning the French league is about as easy as putting on a hat. I mean, you know what I mean? With my experience on Football Manager, I think I could probably manage Paris Saint-Germain. You know what I mean? It's not.
They're not currently champions. Remember that?
What's that?
They're not currently the champions. Remember, Lille are current champions.
Yes, they are, and
So
that was Tuchel that messed that up, wasn't it? So
yeah.
I mean,
there's obviously a slide. I mean, they're going to win it this
yeah,
year, but my point is that they are obviously they're a team that there's a lot. I think in a few episodes ago, I kind of associate. I in many ways I think they're very similar to City in the sense of they have dominated their domestic league, but the next phase in their evolution has to be the Champions League, and City haven't done it. Neither have PSG.
Yeah,
and I think that a team like sorry, I cut you in your point there. You were talking about Paris Saint-Germain, but you're saying that they can win the league at a canter. Their manager, he leaves Tottenham, he goes there, wins the league, can't get through to the Champions League, win it. Is he the guy that's going to go to the biggest club? Them and Real Madrid are probably the biggest clubs in the world. Is he that guy? And if he's not that guy, then does that man exist, or woman? But does that person exist to actually be good enough to go and win honours with United? Who is that? Who out there right now is going to be good enough to do it?
Here's the problem. Here's the problem. It isn't. There isn't a lot of names that jump out, and that is the problem. I mean, there is someone. His name's Pep Guardiola, and he's currently. Do you know what I mean? I mean that's
explode if he left City and went to United.
But that's the problem, because United are now at a point where they believe that they're in the elite. We believe we're in the elite bracket. I say we, but believe we're in the elite bracket. But at the moment, where we are in reality is that we are way down that pecking order, and it's because of the infrastructure behind the scenes, because of the owners, because of the way that the club has been run, and the way the recruitment has gone. Man United should have been the second Pep Guardiola left Barcelona. United should have been banging his door down to bring him to. Do you know what I mean? The fact that we've allowed him to go to Bayern Munich and then allowed City to steal a march, to me, that's unforgivable. That's where we should be aiming. That's where we should. That should have been the next manager after Ferguson. That should have been where we should have gone. So
I go back to my original question then. If it's Guardiola, obviously, he is,
won't happen.
So who? Who do you think out there is?
I personally think the best manager in world football at this moment in time. There are two that I like for different reasons that I think could be a success at United. One is Carlo Ancelotti.
Yeah, but he's at Real.
He is, but Real Madrid sack managers as often as they change their shirts. So it's only a matter of time. Only a matter of time before he loses another El Clasico, and bang, that's him gone. You know what I mean? It's a merry-go-round, isn't it? There, so he'll be, But Carlo Ancelotti, for me, I've never really personally. And please, Roger's not sitting here today because I got blasted. But I've never been a fan of the way Chelsea operate in that. Sack a manager every 18 months. If he doesn't win the league, he's gone. But has it? That's another question.
That's
for another day. Because I would argue in terms of the Premier League, Chelsea have underachieved. But anyway, that's. I would argue that.
When you see this recording, please.
I would argue that. I would argue 5 league titles in 20 years is underachieving for that level of investment. And if they stuck with a manager for more than 5 minutes, I think they would have had more success. That is my belief.
I do believe that was a shot.
Yeah, that is a shot fired. That is a shot fired.
Was a shot fired. So
and that's not, that's not taken away from anything Chelsea have done. They've been incredibly successful in cup competitions and everything else, and put in the Champions League. But the bread and butter is the Premier League, and I think their return in the Premier League is below where their investment should have been.
Right.
And I think their biggest mistake was sacking Ancelotti. I think that was their biggest mistake. Yeah. Yeah, I
Because
think because he got them playing, he won them the title, and he got them playing the most cohesive football I've ever seen Chelsea play. You know, even under Mourinho, I would argue that was the best Chelsea team. That team that had Anelka and it still had Lampard and Drogba, and that was a very, very good Chelsea team. And the following season, he didn't win the league, and he was out the door. And they brought in Villas Boas, was it?
yeah,
And that ended well. You know what I mean? And then
yeah,
it just went on a merry-go-round.
there has been a few dodgy like signings, but I think isn't that just because Chelsea wasn't run like a football club. It was just the plaything of a Russian billionaire, so who could do what he wanted, and he did. And
But that's the interesting thing that Louis van Gaal has said this week, isn't he? He's come out and said
what
to
did he say?
Haag.
Oh, go on. What did he say?
So he said to Haag. So bear in mind he's the other candidate, Ted Haag from Ajax.
Yeah.
Now he looks like a good prospect because his record with Ajax is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Dutch league to Premier League, it's a different ball game. It is a jump. Yeah. I mean, it's not as massive a jump as it was from Norway to Premier League, which what Ollie Solskjaer did, but it's a jump. Yeah. But though Ajax have got a great tradition, they're not a bad side. They got to the Champions League semi-finals with Haag. So I'm not saying that he's a bad coach. I'm not saying it's to be sniffed at. But Louis van Gaal said to him this week, warned him off going to United. Now this could be a little bit of sour grapes because obviously Van Gaal was our. Because he said United are not a football club; they're a commercial entity.
Which is not wrong, is it? I mean, that's not. I don't think that's wrong, but
this is the problem.
Can they not be both?
We were both for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But you lose one, and we're still. It's still about, and again, it goes back to the ownership and the way it's structured and the way that I mean, to get into this. I don't know how much you want me to ramble on about this. I could ramble on about this all night.
I've literally got my next point stored up and ready. So whenever you go on, please carry on.
So I mean, for me, the slide started long before Ferguson left.
Right. Okay.
The summer that we sold Cristiano Ronaldo, which was 2008, 2009, something like that.
Yeah.
We got £80 million for him. And then the question is, well, what do you do with that money?
Yeah.
Do you know what we did with it? We bought Antonio Valencia and Michael Owen. Now that sends out a statement about is the interest in commercialism or is it in the football? We didn't reinvest that money. The other thing we did that summer, which was the criminal thing to do, was we allowed Tevez to leave on a free. Well, he was loaned and we had to pay 20 million, I think, to secure his signature, and we didn't do it. We just let it go. And he went to City and the rest. And from that moment on, I remember at the time thinking, this isn't good. We're letting our biggest assets go. Not that we had much choice letting Ronaldo go, but you look at the players that Ferguson signed in the last 3 or 4 years, and you think, with the exception of Van Persie, who was...
No, don't talk about that. I can't believe you brought that up.
But with the exception of him, who else did we buy in those final years that set it alight? Ashley Young?
No,
really. Javier Hernandez? I mean, that was all right. They're good players. So Phil Jones?
Oh, wow. So what you're saying, in other words, is under Fergie, they were still they were a commercial entity throughout Fergie's tenure, but they were
absolutely,
But now what you're saying is that they're no longer. It's more about the brand rather than what's on the pitch. And I think there's been that with a lot of clubs. I don't think United by any means are the only club that have been guilty of that. I think Arsenal went through many years of hurt because Wenger was told qualify for the Champions League, and I'm happy to win an FA Cup, great, but qualify for the Champions League and keep going, and he did.
And it is a shame, isn't it, that we're celebrating 4th place above a trophy.
I know, and I think that was you win the title, so you challenge for the title, or you qualify for Champions League. and the money that brings. And you
Mm.
know that qualifying for Champions League has got financial benefits for your club.
Yes,
Massive
massively.
financial
Yeah,
benefits.
yeah, absolutely.
And you know that once you get your foot in the door, you stay there. And you
Yeah,
stay there for as long as you can. Arsenal, for many years, has been known as a financially stable club. They spent a lot of money. They managed to get good terms with the local council to build the ground in the first place. They put a lot of money into the area to rejuvenate it. They did a lot of things to get themselves at level pecking, so that they weren't going to be one of these clubs that was heavily in debt. Wenger every year was bringing in qualification money. I know it sounds bad,
yeah.
but even if you finish fourth, that is a title. You've won. You've got the title of making money. You've earned the right to make more money, and that was what Arsenal did as a business, pretty much for the last 10 odd years, until the last 5 years, where Wenger leaves, and we've now had to go, oh, we better play football again now. We better start focusing on being a football team again, because we've lost track of. We've focused on the finance. Oh yeah, we wear nice tops, and we sell good memorabilia, and we're a good brand around the world. I always find it fascinating when they go, oh yeah, we're filming in somewhere in the middle of the continent of Africa, and you'll see a youngster with an Arsenal top on, and you think, wow,
Mm.
that says that that's the influence that even somewhere in the middle of nowhere, there will be someone that will understand who Arsenal is. Obviously, Arsenal have always had
Yeah.
a good relationship with African players. So yeah, the brand is quite well known there, but they lost track of the football. And so what
Well, the
happened was
best the best time I had as a United fan was the early 2000s when it was United Arsenal. The
yeah, it was
football,
great. It
the
was headaches
football
as
was
well. Those
just
games
through the
yeah,
roof. It was just fantastic. The intensity of those
it was.
matches
But I
was
don't.
absolutely brilliant.
I mean, those were, for me, they were the worst days of the season, and it would ruin my week if we lost, and I'd be happy as Larry if we won. I feel that the last, maybe, I mean, I'm not going to get. I know this is the thing about Arsenal fans. We get excited too quickly.
Yeah, I'm on a forum with a bunch of them, so I can tell you
Yeah,
that.
we get really excited where we are now currently, we've got breathing space between us and the chasing pack. But in those last 10 games that we've got to play, we have got some really difficult games to get our points and keep that breathing space. If we win our games, we qualify for Champions League. If we don't win those games, we get drawn back into a battle. And it will then depend on who has the strongest will. You can't rule out Tottenham. You can't rule out Manchester United. West Ham are still there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
And Arsenal, for the first time, and as I said, I've spoken to a lot of Arsenal fans. For the first time, we're actually not thinking, "Oh, it's an away game, we're going to lose that," because that generally has been how it's felt. We may win at home, but a difficult away game, we're either going to draw or we're going to lose it, and we've been winning, which is really
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, we were
And
talking on Sunday about momentum,
yeah,
and Arsenal
well,
definitely got that at the moment.
definitely,
There's
that's
there's momentum at Arsenal.
I feel that's part of the reason why international breaks drive me mad, because
Yeah.
international breaks are fantastic if you're on a losing streak, but they are terrible if you're winning,
Yeah.
because it's such a break from your momentum. Everything
Yeah.
that is geared up for the week in, week out. Then you play an international game with players that you might be trying to kick the living daylights out of each other a few days from now because you're on opposing teams, but right now you're playing together. And in that period, the momentum can sway, and we'll see. It used to be the teams that had the most internationals usually had a really bad game coming back, because so many of the players are knackered. Some of the players that aren't being chosen for international duty right now are in Spain. They're right now,
Yeah.
chilling out, enjoying before they have to go back for training. So we talked about what do we talk about during the international
Yeah.
break, and a lot of the time it's, oh, how's our season going? We've got only a few more games left before the season's over. How are we going to get on? Are we going to do well? Are we not going to do well? And I wonder now if that momentum, especially for Arsenal, if that momentum is going to wane. I just worry.
Yeah.
That's just me. I'm
And
a
also,
warrior.
you're keeping an eye on who's getting injured as well, aren't you? I mean, you're
Oh,
thinking,
100%.
is Odegaard going to come back injured? I mean, Saka's pulled out of the squad, didn't he? I mean, you are on tenterhooks, aren't you? Every time a tackle goes in, you're thinking, is that an Arsenal player? You know what I mean? You do think that, and
I do think that we've got some really good. So at the moment, we've got some really good teams playing good football. So I personally think that at least one England team, if not two, could potentially make it to the final of the Champions League. But I don't see why there wouldn't be. I can see at least one of the England teams getting there. Obviously, Germany is still there. Real Madrid is still there. There are still big clubs still there.
Well, and it's last chance for a lot of those Real Madrid players, isn't it? I mean, I can't see Modric or Benzema playing much longer. So,
I mean, he plays. You know, he plays some phenomenal football. In that last game where they played Paris Saint-Germain, they were just he was unplayable.
Massively underrated striker, Benzema. Massively underrated.
I'm a bit disappointed because obviously my partner in crime isn't here with us today, because I wanted to talk to him about. So it's where I eat humble pie, because I threw it down his throat when Senegal and Egypt played each other, and he said at the very beginning, so even before they played even the first game, he said to me, Senegal are going to go to the final. I said, no, Egypt, they may do it. I think Egypt might do it. And then I even added insult by posting in the WhatsApp group. You were saying, Chris, because Egypt, Egypt managed to beat Senegal. But anyway, we had a rematch between those two teams. And I don't know if you saw the controversy of the penalties being taken. There's a photo. I'll see if I can get it. There's a photo actually of
the laser pens.
I know. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
I mean, how is that fair?
Wow.
I mean, what's your take on that? So if you don't know, Salah needed to take a penalty, and in the last in the African Cup of Nations final, Salah was the last person to kick.
Yeah.
And he didn't get to kick because they've missed so many penalties that by the time Mane was going to...
Salah missed.
I thought Salah didn't get to shoot.
No, he missed. He put his over the bar.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well then, so that means he's done it twice. Oh my goodness. How embarrassing is that? Sorry, I thought that he didn't get to shoot because he was fifth. He was at the very end.
No, he missed his one, and then Mane rolled his one in.
Well, look at this. Let me add this photo. Look at this. I mean, it's really embarrassing, but have I not got... I've got to start a free trial. I don't want a free trial. How dare you? Yeah, look at this.
There we are.
Look at
now,
that.
Do you remember, didn't this happen at the Euros? Didn't this happen at Wembley when the Danish goalkeeper was facing Kane's penalty?
Right. Yeah, it was Schmeichel, wasn't it?
Yeah, and there was uproar. That apparently there was a stadium announcer, and the person got ejected. They found who it was. I thought.
Yeah. Well,
now, I mean,
that is terrible.
Yeah. I mean, that is terrible.
His face. That's not just one laser. There's several. There's one on his forehead. There's a load on his mouth. There's one on his chest. I mean, we're talking. This man is about to try and take a penalty to his club, keep his country in the in the tournament to go to the World Cup, and they're throwing lasers at him, and he shoots. I was like, it's unfair. And I think a situation like that, don't you think that they should, if it happens like that they should move them to the other side? If it's home, because that's unfair. That's totally unfair.
I think the penalty should have been delayed until whoever was doing it stopped.
Could be ejected,
It should be one of those. Like the teacher does when it's like no one's going home till the culprit's gone. It should have been. They'd have been there at midnight. Like, well, I don't care how long this takes. It's very wrong. I mean, again, coming back a little bit to our discussion on Sunday, we were talking a little bit about African football and whether an African nation could win a World Cup.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of discussion about infrastructure and whether the national leagues in Africa are up to a standard and whether everything is sort of whether they've got that infrastructure to do it. But you look at something like that and you think it is an indictment, isn't it, against the competition that's there, and FIFA should be looking into it, and again, not to sort of go into sort of too much political stuff, but there was a lot of racist chanting as well from the Senegal fans, apparently.
Oh, right. Yeah,
and you know, I mean, FIFA's inability to deal with racism in football properly has exacerbated that problem, and I'm sure that's something that's close to your heart and most of us who, you know, who hate such things, because you know the pitiful fines and the, you know, the slap on the wrist that nations get for it is just, it doesn't work.
No,
you know, and they won't take it seriously, you know, and just things like that, you know, unfortunately, it only harms, well, it harms the game, but it harms the African game, doesn't it? Really.
Do you think then that keeping, obviously, if sanctions were put onto Senegal, would you accept then that there should have been sanctions against England where we played Denmark?
What, for the laser pen?
Yeah.
But didn't they eject the fan?
I don't know if that was it only one fan or what. I don't know if it was
Yeah,
one.
I think there was one person and they identified him and kicked him out, but it was, and there was an announcement made, so it was dealt with, I think. I mean,
but I don't think it dealt with.
I mean, there's plenty of reasons to eject England fans from tournaments. I mean, that's a very wobbly judgment stall if we start going down that. Start going down that route.
I mean, I'm not saying that. You know, Senegal did play better than Egypt on the day. They were the better side.
Yeah.
But obviously, this was a penalty that should have been taken unmolested. There should have been no laser.
So, am I right in assuming this game was in Egypt, or was it in Senegal?
It was in Senegal.
It was in Senegal. So, so it was the home fans that were. I mean.
Yeah, and but obviously in the first leg it was tough. You know, it was. I think there's no love lost between these two sides because of the final. So obviously they've played each other 3 times now, and 3 times it's 2-1. You know, Egypt won. Yeah. And obviously Senegal won this time. And you know, the thing is, it's frustrating because you've got really good. At the very beginning of the show, we talked about there are some really big players that will not be going to the World Cup.
Can anyone argue? And if Chris was here, I'm sure he'd have a big lot to say about this. But are we not saying that Mo Salah is the best player in the world right now?
See, do you know? Do you know? That's a very. Do I think he's the best player in the world right now?
Right now, this season, is there a better player in world football than Mo Salah?
Is Haaland not up there? Is Benzema not up there? I mean, Ronaldo, is he not up there? I mean, they're all having great seasons.
Well, Ronaldo has done okay and has carried United, but I mean, Salah is leading the charge to possibly land Liverpool a potential, and I hope to goodness it doesn't happen, quadruple. I would not hear the end of that if that happens. I know too many Liverpool fans, but but at the end of the day, you know, when you look at what he's done over the past, you know, in the Champions League,
I've just never, when you know, I think what we might do is we might have a discussion about that. I think we'll get the lads in, and we'll break down who we think is the best player in the world.
Well, one of the things I was interested in was your discussion with Chris on who was the best ever Premier League 11.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I know I put it on one of our forums. Was you did very quickly dismiss current players?
Yeah, I know. The reason why we did that was because we based it on. In fact, guys, if you haven't seen that, check that video out.
It's a good video.
It was we based it on longevity, and I think that's why I was the one that brought up Salah. If you remember correctly, in that discussion. I said,
Well, you were bringing up a lot of Liverpool players, and he
I
was
know,
knocking them out of the park, and I'm thinking, what?
I was quite literally saying that a lot of the modern players I felt would definitely warrant at least an honourable mention, because I felt that I did think Salah was definitely someone we should talk about. I think that Van Dijk is definitely a defender that would definitely have to be spoken about. He is such a great defender, and he's intelligent, and he's evolved in. Van Dijk is a defender who has the. He's like a Rio Ferdinand. He's like a Vidic. He's like a Jaap Stam. He's got everything. He's got bits of all of them in one bundle. And I've said it, but when we talk about the best in the Premier League, I think what happened is we had to base it over time, because Van Dijk has won one title, where we've got defenders that have won 3, we've got defenders that have won 5, we've got defenders that have won 8. So especially in the Man United team, those defenders, you can't rule them out. Then it literally became a who is our preference. Now I can't stand John Terry. I just don't like him, but I put him in my team because I know his worth. And
absolutely.
I hated to like, because he was really good. Yeah, he didn't have pace, but he had the ability to read the game and know where to be at the right place, and was brilliant and at it, and was a great captain, and he dragged Chelsea through many a game. So I couldn't, and I know that Chris was talking about, and I actually said Sol Campbell. I think I said John Terry and Sol Campbell, and I think Chris said
Adams,
and Adams would have definitely. I mean, come on, I'm an Arsenal fan. Of course, I would have put Adams up there. When you see rolling up his sleeves, you knew, he's in for business. But I'm old enough to remember when he was a donkey, and I'm old enough to remember when he was just like Maguire. I do. I remember when we were booing him.
He came of age under Wenger, didn't he? He came of age under Wenger.
I remember Adams when he was the donkey, and we used to take the mickey out of him, and because he was a little bit like clueless.
Yeah,
reminds me a little bit of Maguire, which is weird because of that. There's that sort of like.
But in the modern game, it's hard to be like that. Back in the day, there were centre halves like that. All look at me, centre halves. I mean, there's a term for the past, but there were defenders like that all over the shop. They were all. You often would watch them and think, did this guy actually have a trial?
Yeah.
Did the scout actually go? Yeah, you know what I mean? Because you think, where's his coordination? And yet they were sort of good at that thing. But,
I randomly watched a game yesterday. Oh, who was it? Gary Mabbott for Tottenham. And I watched a video of him. And keeping in mind that Tottenham fans love him, and he was, he's well respected. But I watched a game where I thought, he played for Tottenham? Like he was there, because obviously it's you might catch someone at the wrong time. Now, as you said, football now is unforgiving, and the spotlight is definitely on someone like Maguire. The spotlight is definitely on someone like Salah. The fact that he's not going to a World Cup. In fact, if I can, I'm going to put something on there. Yeah, I put this on there. See if I can get it bigger. Let me get that figure up. So these are our. Oh, go back one. These are our teams that are going. So we've got Qatar as the host nation. Hilarious, because you think, my goodness, like if it was not for the fact they're holding it, would they even be there?
Well, can you name a single Qatarian player? Is that what they're? Is that what?
Oh wow!
Is that the collective noun for Qatar? Qatarian.
That would be. Oh, do you know what? I've just seen that Roger has popped in. Hello, Roger. Little mate, just going to leave now for your comments about John Terry. He said I should have seen Chopper Harris.
Wow!
But Roger, to be fair, that is before my time. Like I am That's is Chopper Harris the 70s, early 70s? I don't know.
Was he a Leeds player? He sounds like a Leeds player.
Was it? Oh, was he Leeds? Because I thought it was
he could have been. I don't know. It sounds like they had a lot of. They had a lot of.
I just know that when you hear a name like Chopper Harris,
I automatically think 70s Leeds team.
Did he even play football, or did he play karate?
Yeah.
On the field? But yes, hello Roger, how are you doing? Thank you so much for popping in. I know that you were busy for doing some activities, but thank you so much for coming in and saying hello. Please don't be offended by what I said, John. I picked John Terry for my team, so as much as I don't like him, I admire him as a 60s and 70s. Well, Roger, and unfortunately, I wasn't born. I wasn't alive, so I can't appreciate the Chopper Harris, Chelsea captain. We've talked a great deal about different things, and obviously, I know that I've got on the board at the moment our qualifiers for the World Cup.
Yeah.
Now, there's some big teams there. I mean, as you said, I can't personally mention any Qatarian first team players, but no doubt we will see them playing.
Unknown quantity, really, aren't they?
Yeah, so they may well be the. Oh my goodness, he's had the most appearances for Chelsea. I did not know that. So do you know what? We've learned a great deal today about Chopper Harris. So look at this. So you've got Germany, Denmark, Brazil, France, Belgium. So those are quality. Any one of those teams, but you've got Spain.
Just a shout out there. Looking at Denmark, how great was it to see Christian Eriksen back on a football pitch?
He scored, even though I think they lost against.
Yeah, but lovely goal he scored.
But the fact that he's back. What was it? No, the Brilliant. Netherlands. You know what was interesting was there's a photo I saw of he was running, and next to him was the ex-Manchester United midfielder.
The Brandon Daley
Blint, and someone took a photo of them tackling each other, and they both obviously
got defibrillators,
and I thought that was a really powerful photo to show how much football has advanced. That maybe 5 years ago that was a death sentence. They may have died or they certainly wouldn't have been able to.
You wonder whether Fabrice Muamba would have been able to play with Muamba. Can't say his name.
Yes.
I wonder whether he could have carried on with a defibrillator if that technology had been available then.
Exactly.
Did you see the clip of it was the Man United the left back that we've loaned to Norwich, Brandon Williams.
Okay.
Ericsson was playing for Brentford and went past him.
Oh yeah, and he grabbed him, didn't he?
And he grabbed him and pulled him over. And Williams was a bit of a hothead and went to smack him. Realised it was Ericsson and hugged him.
But doesn't that go to show you, he literally saw him and was about to go, "You? Oh no, it's not you. I can't hurt you." So Roger's saying that we need to try and rewatch the 1970 FA Cup final. Dirtiest match ever played. So I take it Chelsea were in it. Who else played? Was it Chelsea versus who?
I suspect it was Leeds.
I'd imagine it might have been Leeds. Yeah. Well, come on, Roger, tell us who played in the 1970 FA Cup final. And we'll have to find it on YouTube now to see.
Leeds used to kick lumps out of everybody.
So so look at this. So you've got Argentina, obviously Iran, South Korea, Japan, Saudi Arabia, Ecuador, Uruguay, Canada, Ghana. Good shout for Ghana. Senegal, Portugal, Morocco, Tunisia, Cameroon. Now, I don't know. Obviously, they've got who are the different winners and whatnot. Out of those names there, who do you think are the top? Who do you think will make? Who would make your semi-finals? Give me 4 teams.
Well, it's about time. It's about time Belgium. This generation of Belgian players.
Yeah. Well, is it the golden generation of Belgian football?
It is, isn't it? You've got Lukaku's and your De Bruyne's and I mean that's got to be that. If they get a favourable draw, they seem to get unlucky draws, Belgium. But
so you're thinking okay.
They've got to be in there.
So I think so. You've got Belgium.
So for semi-finals, Belgium.
Yeah.
It's hard to bet against France, isn't it?
Yeah, go on. Okay, so you've got France. Oh, okay, so Belgium, France. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to bet against France. I mean, I could see.
They refereed the match with today's standards. They were left with about 3 players. So this was obviously a fight.
I seem to remember. I've seen highlights of this game. I seem to remember.
Do you know?
I've seen highlights.
I've seen. I don't know if you've seen it before. You probably have, but there's this. It dates back to like Elizabethan times, I think, where this ball has to go from one side of the town to the other,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
they quite literally fight to get this ball. I don't know. I have to do some research. I find it fascinating, and they can kick it, and they got to get there. I just think that
It's how football started, really, wasn't it?
started. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
imagine this game is a throwback. Yeah. So we've got Belgium and France, and then who are your
Belgium.
other? So remember, I've got some big names in there.
I mean, I want to say with with the players they've got with Diego Jota
Oh, so
and
Portugal.
Fernandez and it being Ronaldo's last stand for his country,
Oh yeah.
I could see Portugal getting to the semis.
Okay. So you've got Belgium,
Um,
France, Portugal, and who's your final
I'm
name?
going to stick my neck on the line and say England could get to the semis.
Right. Okay. Now that is a good shout. Roger's gone France, Brazil, Portugal, and Germany. Um, See, it's very difficult, but what's interesting, the reason I asked that was because there are a lot of clubs in there, a lot of African teams. You've got Cameroon, Morocco, Tunisia, you've got Senegal, Ghana. We've kind of dismissed pretty much and gone to type.
I
France
mean,
was,
Senegal are the standout African
but are they good
option,
enough
aren't they?
to make even the semi-final?
I
You don't think so?
don't think so.
So if you were going to pick a tip, so Roger, Robert's gone. Oh, actually, so Robert's gone with. Hold on, did I say it wrong? Do you know what? Sorry, Rob, I didn't know you were there. So Robert's gone
Robert's gone
France,
France, Brazil.
Brazil,
Yeah.
Portugal, and Germany, and then Roger's gone Belgium, Portugal, England, and Spain. Okay, it's a tough one, isn't it? It does look like quite an interesting World Cup where it could be any one of these teams. Who would be the dark horse? Do you think Argentina or Netherlands are a dark horse in this?
Well, the Netherlands are doing very well, aren't they?
Yeah.
They have got a very good side. But I suppose, again, with it being Messi's last stand, I suppose you can never rule out Argentina, can you?
So Robert thinks that England won't get to the semis. Now the thing is, right? I think that I think England are actually going to do very, very well in this tournament, and it's something that I was speaking to a colleague at work about it, and he said that England has a very, very long season
Yeah.
with lots of competitions. More I would imagine than some of the other European countries. So by the end of the season, if you've survived by the end of the season, you then get to go to a World Cup and play with England, and you're tired. But this World Cup is being played in the middle of the season. Could that in some way be an advantage for the England national team to go?
Yeah, we were talking about it because Nana had a view on this, didn't he, on Sunday?
Oh, what was it? Sorry, I don't remember that. Maybe you know what it is? Maybe he said it and I brought it up at work. Could be that.
Maybe Nana was saying that he actually thought it could really help England because you've got that whole situation, haven't you, where we get to the end of the season in this country and everyone's on their knees, and the rest of Europe have had a winter break, and you know what I mean, and that doesn't happen here.
Have you seen that comment from Rob? Belgium are the Spurs.
Spurs of international football. What every tournament. Wow.
Wow. So, for those of you that don't know, Rob is a very, very, very loyal Chelsea fan. So you can feel the hate coming from the Spurs. But yes, I think Belgium, and it's very interesting because Belgium are Belgium still ranked number one? Let's have a look.
I think so. I think they are. I think Belgium 1, England are 2, aren't they?
Sorry, I spelled that wrong.
Well, it might be Italy 2, England 3. I can't remember now.
World rankings. Let's have a look. So I think the world rankings nations. Yeah, Belgium. Belgium are number 1.
Brazil are 2. Oh, England are down to 5.
Belgium, Brazil, France, Argentina, and England are 5th.
Yeah,
That is a great deal. So, but Uh, I mean, don't get me wrong. Belgium have underachieved for the quality what they have, and I think, but so
Small,
when you
small nation though, aren't they? I mean, it's only
yeah, but look at the quality. They've got some. They
yeah,
have got a position. They've got two players for every position at that international
yeah.
level. I
Do
mean,
you remember? Do you remember Enzo Scifo from the 1990s?
Enzo.
Enzo Scifo, great Belgian player, brilliant. It's like
Oh,
attacking
okay.
midfielder, a bit like Hadji. Do you remember Hadji? He had
Yeah,
that sort of
Romanian.
quality.
He's Romanian.
Romanian player, yeah, he had
Yeah,
that
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
quality. Great
So,
player.
so he says all England players will be match fit, whereas others will come off a break. Um, sorry, Roger, what do you mean? Are we talking about at Christmas? So, um,
Well, the tournament starts in November, so I think it'll.
I think it ends December 18th, but it's
Yeah,
going to be such a big break. We play too much football, I think we do, and I think
yeah,
everyone knows that they've got everyone knows that they have. We have a lot of games and we are tired, but as professionals, that shouldn't be an issue. But I'm thinking we were in the semi-final of the World Cup those years ago. The next tournament we get to the final. Um, could this be the time that England actually do it? As long as they avoid Belgium, because they do seem to be a bogey team for the England squad. And they've got Lukaku. But if Lukaku plays better I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think Lukaku plays better at national football than he does for club. But I mean, I could be wrong. But
well, he was great. He was great for Inter Milan, wasn't he?
But was he? Was? But it's the Italian league. It's not the Prem. And I
Yeah,
think that's been shown up now. Is as good as he is, he was bullying defenders in the Italian league,
yeah,
and he's not allowed to. He can't bully Van Dijk. He's not even
no,
bullying. He's not bullying some of the. He's not bullying the Man City defenders, and I think that's what's happened. He's now Matt. He's a big guy. Don't get me wrong. He's huge,
yeah.
he's strong, he's powerful. But in Italy, he had more opportunity. I mean, he had Martinez as his wingman, and between the two of them, they were amazing.
And
Whereby,
Alexis Sanchez as well was there, wasn't he? Sort of
yeah,
linking up
I
with
mean, at
him. I mean,
Chelsea, he's played in a different way. And I do hope
yeah,
that Tuchel gets the best out of him. I really hope Tuchel finds the best way to actually get the best out of him. But when you look at those rankings, you've got Belgium, who are number one, and I know Belgium is on most people. Most people have, you've said Belgium. I've heard people talk about Belgium. Brazil obviously are going to be there. France are definitely. Argentina. I'm really pleased to see England are actually at fifth. But then
yeah.
England always do well in qualifiers, and they kind of don't do so well at in the tournaments. Italy, obviously, are not going to be there. Spain, Portugal, Denmark. I mean, it's a really big, good sides there. But I just think that
God,
when
how
you
high are the USA? Are they? Where the USA? They're
USA 13th,
13th.
yeah,
Good days.
and according to that Red Arrow, they were even higher before
They were
Germany.
higher, yeah.
They were they were above Germany and Mexico, so
Okay.
they've qualified. So there's sorry,
I didn't
yeah.
say anything.
Oh right, so basically, we have got I think quite an exciting World Cup coming up. I think.
Yeah, and I think it'll be good. I mean, we've got to remember that the heat will play a part even in. I think even in November, it's still sort of in the high 20s, isn't it, out there?
Can I just say right that they say that they have air conditioned grounds.
Right.
So there's going to be they're going to have to think of it's still going to be hot. There'll be water breaks because obviously I've seen that. Maybe not so much here in the UK, but I've seen it. Some of the they do break for water so they can hydrate.
Had it during COVID, didn't we?
Yeah, and they can hydrate, which I think makes sense.
It's
Obviously,
an interesting question. If you don't mind, a segue, but it was something I was going to ask you about.
yeah, go on. Yeah, go on.
There's been back in the news this week about 5 substitutions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. I mean, what you're going to ask me what my opinion of it is.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, obviously they have substitutions for head injuries already in
yeah,
place.
the concussion substitute. Yeah.
There's already in place the opportunity to have more people on board. I think I think the nature of the sport I would go with it. I think that what we had before wasn't enough. I think now we're at a point where teams are big teams, and I think the thing is, it's the only difference I would say is that one day someone might put all of them on in one go. You're gonna get someone that's gonna go, right, take them all off, put them all on, and it's gonna
Do you think it gives an advantage though, to even bigger advantage to teams like Man City,
I've got bigger
because
clubs.
they've obviously got
Yeah,
they've
biggest
obviously
squad.
got, well, not just a bigger squad but more quality on the bench.
Yeah,
So if
I
they're
think you're
playing
right.
against the smaller side, it's like, great, we've just been dealing with De Bruyne and Mahrez and now
Yeah.
they're taking them off, and on comes Grealish, and another 5 forwards come on that are going to, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It could,
it's definitely going to benefit. I mean, would no disrespect to a Burnley, but would Burnley even have that many players to be able to swap over? Because they're a small, they run on a very, very small unit, and it works.
yeah,
But when you have that many but I can totally understand why we are now, why they're considering having more, having more substitutions.
yeah.
I think it's better for the game, especially now that in the climate, tackles, injuries.
Well, it was
Footballers are more
interesting.
like thoroughbreds now. So there's, quick shout out to my wife. My wife is saying, "Hi, hubby. Hello, Mrs. Morrison. Welcome
Hello.
to the stream. Keith, Sarah, this is my wife. No, well, you're not my wife, Keith. This is my wife there. She says hello. She also says hello to her dad, who is Roger.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And
yeah.
hello to Rob. So she's saying hello to everybody. But I'm going to stick with her saying hello to me. Not to dad. To me. Oh, and then Roger says, hi, Sarah. See, this is a family affair. Keith, you are now part of the family.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So I think it's good. I do think that it does have the potential to disrupt the game, because you
Yeah,
know what it's like. You'll be at a tempo, say you're at 80% and you're running hard and you're doing well, and then you need to take, you need to do some substitutions. Those substitutes will take time to get up to speed, and in
yeah,
that time, it's going to unsettle the squad. And we've seen before when um, players don't know what position they should be in. They got, there was always it was always told to me, you never do a substitution on a corner, right? I don't
yeah,
know if you were
definitely.
when you played
Yeah,
football.
yeah,
You never
absolutely. Yeah,
do.
yeah,
But that's evolved now, that you don't do a substitution on a free kick, because position, if it's zonal position, zonal marking, if a player comes on and doesn't know what area he's meant to mark, he can leave someone open to score a goal, and that's quite common.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but I do think if having that many substitutions is for the safety and health of the players, then yeah, I'm all for that. But I
Well,
do think that it will disrupt
yeah.
the energy, because you're talking about completely different players who will do completely different things. So that's my take on it.
I was watching an interview with Gary Lewin
Oh yeah,
earlier today. Now he was the England physio, but he was the Arsenal physio for a
Arsenal. Yeah, yeah,
long time, and
yeah.
he was talking about the '89 season, which you
Okay,
must
yeah,
remember very, very fondly.
yeah,
And
yeah. I'm
he
glad
was
Chris is
saying,
here now. Chris would be annoyed if I started smiling.
but he was saying that, I mean, Arsenal won that league with 15. They only used 15 players that season. In the whole season, they used 15 players. And he was saying that there was one Christmas where they used to play like every 2 days over Christmas. I mean, they pretty much do now, but it was even more intense back then. And he said he can remember sort of getting to a point where you'd come off the pitch and you could only make one substitute in those days. You could only have one person on the bench. So that was it. You made your change.
Yeah.
And he was saying that, that you come off, there'd be 3 players who actually physically couldn't walk by the end of the game. And you couldn't take them off. You just used to stick them out on the wing and hope they could sort of do something. But the interesting story he was telling you, see if you can find it. It's on Facebook or one of those. There's an interesting story about Michael Thomas.
Okay, yeah.
Because about 4 days before the Liverpool game, Michael Thomas tweaked his knee. He did a knee ligament injury. Now, people don't know this. So he actually had a strain on his cruciate. And George Graham has said to Gary Lewin, can Michael Thomas play?
Yeah.
And he said, if you start him, he probably won't finish the game. That was his words. If you start him, he gets one kick on that knee, it's over. And he was like, shows what I know, because he finished the game in style. But you know what I mean? You think to yourself,
and when he scored, did a backflip. Right.
I mean, players were made of different stuff. You know, you probably remember Terry Butcher, you know, in the England shirt, blood pouring down, and so players were made of different stuff back then, definitely. But
but obviously those head injuries, and we're now realizing concussion, and that's part of the reason why I think about having, Terry Butcher. Don't get me wrong, I remember the photo. He's in an England shirt. It's red blood, like literally the same color as my top now, with a bandage round his head because he's been, that's a head wound. If he was playing in this football, he wouldn't have been allowed back on the field.
No. Well, they'd have been stitching him up, wouldn't they? And they'd have been, but he had to stop bleeding, and it just didn't stop bleeding, did it? So amazing.
I mean, so it's a very but that's an interesting story that so they played him anyway. That would never happen now. If you've got a leg injury, you would be out. You wouldn't be playing. England, Liverpool would have won the league that year if we hadn't put Michael Thomas on the pitch.
Crazy season that was.
Yeah. So I know that we've been.
Have I taken you off of your agenda? I'm sorry.
The only agenda I had, believe it or not, was we were going to talk about the World Cup. We did that. We were going to talk about some of the. I just felt we had to mention the Salah penalty and the fact that they were lasers at him. I thought that was disgraceful, and I think that light on us that we've allowed and a game of that importance, because you've got to remember that it's an important game. Those kind of things are really important, and the fact that he now is not going to the tournament and can say, I was literally lasered. I couldn't. His whole face was it green, like he was the Incredible Hulk.
It's out of order, isn't it? It's out of order.
And I feel really bad that they didn't. That it should have been retaken, and they should have. I'm not saying that I wanted Egypt to go through, but I just wanted to. If you're going to play fair.
Yeah, and, absolutely.
And I think that was, when it happened to Schmeichel, when Schmeichel played for Denmark against England, as you said, I think they found the guy and they removed him from the ground. They'd have to remove about 6 or 7 people. Out that ground, because there's quite a few people shooting at him to try and disrupt him and stop scoring a goal. And I think that was terrible. That was bad. That
you don't want to see that. It's not in the spirit of the game. It's not in the. It's just wrong.
Yeah, and I feel like if we ever, if we ever have a tournament like that, those players should say, "Look at my face. I'm being," and then the game pauses, stops.
Yeah.
Ref blows the whistle. Right, lads, sit down. Police, go and get him out. Or stop it. We are, you right now, and then hopefully people in the crowd will go, guys, we want to see a game, or there should be sanctions, because Salah now is not going to the World Cup. And I would like even if he wasn't going, I'd like him to not go because it's
fairly. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. So,
I for one, am disappointed that he's not there. I love watching. As much as it's hard for me as a Man United fan to say, I love watching Mo Salah. I think he's a genius. I'm pretty good at acknowledging. Actually, that's another. I don't know. I'm getting taken off your agenda, but here's a question for you. Then I like the host. Does the host get asked questions very often?
He does, and I even choose diplomatic immunity.
Okay. If you could take one player from any other club apart from Arsenal.
Yeah.
In the Premier League era, who would be your player that you would have loved to have seen at Arsenal?
What, over the last 20 years?
Premier League era.
Who would I have liked to have seen playing? But it's only from the Premier League.
Yeah.
Or can I pick anyone? Because there's one.
A Premier League player that basically your favourite Premier League player that isn't an Arsenal player.
It would probably be Ronaldo.
Oh, okay.
And if you asked me, but actually the player that I have my whole life wanted to be in a Arsenal shirt was Benzema. because when he
Okay.
was playing in France, Wenger did everything in his power to try and get him to Arsenal, and he did. There's memoirs about it. The way he talked, he loved Benzema.
Yeah.
He knew that Benzema was going to be the next
Yeah.
big player at Arsenal, but Arsenal wasn't big enough. And
Yeah.
obviously at the time, I don't think Wenger realised that Benzema had his eyes on bigger things. He wanted Real Madrid.
Mm.
And obviously I didn't know that. So when every year for about 4 years, every single time we talked about Benzema, I said, oh, he's coming to Arsenal, he's coming to Arsenal. Because I really wanted to see him in an Arsenal shirt. And when he went to Real Madrid, it broke me. Because I knew he's never coming to us now.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, he's, under Arteta, he's, that's a different era. It's gone now. The reason why I would have liked to have seen Ronaldo I would love to.
He came close to signing for you. You know that, don't you?
I know.
He was
Yeah,
close.
yeah. I think Ronaldo is one of those players that in the Premier League, and that's Suarez did it, Ronaldo did it. There's been other players. I'm trying to think other players that they've literally hit the floor running and have just mesmerized. And I think that those two were the ones that stood out. Suarez in his season, not breakout season, but his just goal scoring crazy season, he was unplayable.
What was the game he scored 4 goals in? He scored 4 goals for Liverpool in one game, and they were all like worldies. There was a volley from like 40 yards, and then there was a free kick, and then it was an absolute. I can't remember who it was against, but he scored 4 goals, and they were all just like ridiculous. And I remember watching that. I think
Norwich. So
Norwich.
Yeah, it was Norwich. Yeah, I just went and checked. It was Norwich. Yeah. So thing is, when Ronaldo was in his, I think it was his final season, he was another unplayable player. He was just brilliant, and I saw him when we played Manchester United in the Champions League. Was it quarterfinals?
Oh, the free kick.
I was at the Emirates.
Free kick.
Well,
yeah.
I was at the Emirates.
It was the Emirates,
for that game, and we basically every seat had a flag, and we had literally turned, the Emirates red. It was beautiful. It was just we were all there. We were so confident, and I think it's Park Ji-sung. Is that his name?
Yeah, he scored. Yeah. Park Ji-sung
was
3 Longs Park.
He just was unplayable as well. I remember watching and thinking, we've got a good team, but this team is the team. Yeah. They were brilliant, and I was there, and it broke my heart. But I actually realised Ronaldo is. See, this is what I mean. There's always going to be the argument about who's the best player. Is it Ronaldo? Is it Messi? Messi was brilliant. Ronaldo was brilliant. But for me personally, Ronaldo, for me, was that guy. I never got to see Messi play live. I've never watched Messi, but I've seen Ronaldo.
No, I never have. No,
I've never seen Messi, but I've seen enough footage of Messi to know that he is brilliant. He's a wizard, and he's excellent, and he's brilliant. Yeah. But Ronaldo, for me, is the player that I think mostly. Yeah. But I wouldn't know where I'd put him in the Arsenal squad because it's different.
I was at the game. I don't know if you remember, but there was a game that where Ronaldo scored a free kick against Portsmouth, and he did his. He used to do his technique where he used to kind of kick down on the ball and knuckleball it. It just flew into the top corner, and I was in the Stretford end behind that goal, and it was like you watching it, and it's like it just blows your mind. How did he do that? He was incredible to see. Flex. He really was. He was so tall as well. He was so big. His presence on the field was massive. Yeah.
He's almost like he's an athlete, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's strong. He's healthy. He's very quick. When he was at United, because it's funny, there was a lot of talk about him not being able to dribble and this, that, and the other. But when he was at United, a lot of his runs were dribbles. He may not score, but a lot of his emerging from halfway line and running around players and passing the ball wide, he was just brilliant. And
his when he first came, his criticism was there was no end product. It was all tricks and step overs, and it used to go into the side netting, and it was like, what is that? And that's why Van Nistelrooy couldn't stand him. Van Nistelrooy got, him used to Beckham. putting them on a sixpence for him in the box for him to just smash him in. And you had Ronaldo going backwards and forwards up the touchline doing party tricks. And he's like, what is this? It's a circus. I don't want, And they never got on. And that was why he got sold. But Ferguson obviously knew what Ronaldo would become and knew that he could let Van Nistelrooy go. Knowing
Isn't that interesting? He said to him, look, I know you've got the tricks. I know you've got... He liked to impact. I remember there was I think it was Lauren at Arsenal, and Ronaldo was just baffing about with the ball, and Lauren just like, I've had enough of this, and he just took him out. And I remember thinking, that's the only way at the moment you are going to stop Ronaldo, is you're just going to foul him. And he knows that. And he was doing all these step overs, and he was messing about, and you just thought, he was so cocky, but he was just he's a good look. One thing we can say is Ronaldo was an amazing player, and he's still he's top goal scorer at United this season. He's 30. He's still
bringing it. That trick against Tottenham was amazing. He's still bringing it.
Was it? So pretty much just we're looking for. And what's really nice is the fact that, sad for North Macedonians, but for us as neutrals,
he'll be at the World Cup.
It's nice to see that Ronaldo will be going to the World Cup.
Yeah.
And Portugal are there or thereabouts. Portugal are a good squad.
It's the strongest Portugal team I've seen for a long time, actually.
Exactly. I would imagine that they're going to definitely be. They'll definitely be in the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just surprised that they had to go through this way to get, to the World Cup. They had to go through to the knockout stages.
Yeah.
But anyway,
can I tell you mine? Because I've got a player that.
Yeah. So who's the player that you wished you could have seen at United?
Dennis Bergkamp.
Thank you.
And that's not that. I ask my friends. I say that to all my Arsenal friends.
Over Thierry Henry, you would have had Bergkamp.
Yeah, absolutely. Every day of the week.
Okay.
I have a real weakness for those kind of people that think about football differently.
Yeah.
And to me, Bergkamp played football like an artist, and as did Eric Cantona, as did Dimitar Berbatov, as did Ruud Gullit. There's a few, but I loved watching Dennis Bergkamp. He was just sublime. I mean, I hated seeing him play. I hated him playing for Arsenal. I just was like, why didn't we get him? And I think the thing is, what sums it up to me, I mean, the goal he scored for Holland against Argentina was
out of the, over his head, down.
Yeah, take it out of the air, bang. I mean, it was magic.
The goals he scored in the Prem. I mean,
his numbers aren't as good as Henry, and that's but it's the way. And I'm one of these people. I don't always, again, bit of a traditionalist. I don't always pay too much attention to numbers. Numbers are there, great, and you can't disregard them, but just to watch a player do what Dennis Bergkamp could do with a football,
So
he was.
So you would say, but who would be your? Because I chose a Premier League player, and I also chose someone who was outside of the Premiership. So who would be the person that you'd most like to see playing at United that never did, that is outside of the Prem?
Zinedine Zidane.
Oh wow, yeah.
I mean, to me, he's my favourite footballer ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he controlled entire football matches. What Messi does is in a very narrow part of the game.
Yeah.
It's great to watch, but he does nothing outside of the final third. I mean, literally, he's carried outside of the final third. Ronaldo in his prime did a bit more. Tracking back was probably a bit more involved in the game, but again, needed a team around him. Zinedine Zidane controlled everything when he was at his best. I mean, to me, that quarter-final he played against Brazil in the 2006 World Cup. And I mean, that was the world champions, Brazil, at that time. That was the golden Brazil generation of the early noughties. And he absolutely bossed that entire game. Just, he's flicking it around Ronaldinho, and he's just
Yeah, he was brilliant.
The control that man had.
You're going to watch that game now because the
Yeah.
way in which he was able to dominate. He had a very strange style with his ankles, the way he would hold the ball, and he had a very low center of gravity. He was able to turn a sixpence. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
You know, I always feel like the fact that they didn't beat Italy in that final game because he headbutted.
Yeah.
Who was it he headbutted? I can't remember.
Materazzi.
Oh, okay, so he headbutts this guy, and they could have won the World Cup. Then they could have won it.
Well, Materazzi scored. No, it was World Cup.
The World Cup. They should have won.
It was his last game. It was Zidane's final game. I mean, there's that image of him walking past as he goes off the field. You think, but and the thing is about Materazzi again. You know, 3 or 4 things that you say. He scored the winning penalty as well. And again, you know, the fact is that no one really knows what was said, but it was probably something racially provocative towards this. And you think to yourself, great, you know, that and the bad guy wins, and you think that's, you know, but I guess you gotta keep your head, haven't you?
Roger says he would have loved to. He would still have to say Pele. Pele, but he says, but us guys, we're probably too young to remember him. Pele was.
I mean, I've seen the highlights of the 1970 World Cup, so I can see what. But here's the question though, Roger. Here's a question for you. Could Pele have played now?
Oh, yes. If you are still here, Roger, could you answer that? Would Pele still be a force to be reckoned with in the modern game? So if you're still here, that's a very good question. I mean, don't get me wrong, the balls they kicked in those days were like medicine balls, weren't they? Heavy. And he would still whack them at full pelt. So, you know, he was strong. I would probably argue yes. I'd probably say yes. I think Pele, as a young Pele, would probably still be incredible.
The footballing brain is still the same. You still got to have the same, you know, I guess with the modern levels of fitness and everything else, it's a tricky one. But then you could argue that he dealt with, you know, the Portuguese tackling him around his waist and, you know, in the 66 World Cup.
World Cups played now, I think so. He saw the game so differently to others. Yeah, so that's a good point, Roger. I think that's very true. I think that the very best players, you know, the Eusebios, the Pelés, you know, I read an article on Monday about Socrates. They said he was the best player to never win the World Cup, and they said that his footballing, he was meant to be the next coming, like the next Brazilian.
That accolade normally goes to Cruyff, doesn't it? But I suppose.
But so Socrates, he was just they said he was incredible. What he could do with the ball was amazing, but never won the World Cup because I think Italy
82.
Yeah, and it's funny. You think, wow. I mean, there's been some amazing players out there who just never did it. You know, they never ever got to the next phase of being great. You know, we talk about Socrates as a good player, but he never won a World Cup. Pele won 4. You know, I think, you know, some of the best players in modern. I mean, Messi will never win a World Cup. You know, but he was a player.
Possibly.
You know? Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, Argentina. I can't knock them, but I think, you know, the chances are that Messi is going to be one of those players that wins everything else that he can, because obviously as an Argentinian he can win the Copa America, which he's done, but the World Cup is still going to be outside of his reach, which means that Maradona will still be, you know, he can't be on the same level as Maradona.
Yeah,
you know,
I suppose so.
Obviously Maradona has lifted the cup, you know, and it wasn't for.
If we're saying though that the World Cup is still the pinnacle, because you know, is the Champions League again? It's another discussion for another time. But it has the.
Keith, you're doing it. Do you know what? You pose so many. I need to keep writing these questions down. There's so many questions.
There's another show. There's another show in this, isn't there?
Show, and I'm going to get Roger to come on again. I'm going to get Rob, Chris. Now I'm going to get the gang. We're all going to come on again and have this discussion. So Roger says, having said that, Maradona dragged Argentina to a World Cup on his own. The rest of the team were average at best.
Yeah, I agree with
True.
that. Agree
And
with
and
that.
I mean, and the thing is that they you know, don't get me wrong, Messi has, Messi has won a Copa America, which was everyone said that Ronaldo was better than him because Ronaldo had the better record because Ronaldo has won a Euro.
Yeah.
But then the discussion was, what's harder to win? Is the Euros harder to win or is Copa America? I would say the Euros is harder to win because there's more teams of that quality in the Euros than there are. I mean, and this is why
Yeah.
I think I don't want to be disrespectful to American teams, but in South America, you've got Brazil, you've got Argentina, you've got Chile, you've got Uruguay. That's four
Yeah.
teams. Generally, I mean, I'm not saying there's not, I'm not saying that Bolivia or Colombia are not up there, but I'm saying that generally those are the four teams that seem to be mentioned more regularly.
And
But in Europe,
you'd have thought that Argentina would have actually won it more than they have in the last
oh,
15
definitely,
years, because they play it every 2 years or something, don't they? It's like
and then you
yeah,
get, but then in Europe, if we go back to that list, I think I've taken it off now, but yeah, I've taken it off. But on the list, you've got,
yeah,
England, you've got France, you've got Belgium, you've got Germany, you've got Spain, you've got France. I mean, that's 7 teams. Who else is there? Would be up
Italy.
there.
Did you mention
Italy, that's
Italy?
8.
Netherlands.
I mean, do you know what I mean? You start to realize there's a lot of very, very good teams in
Yeah,
Europe.
and that wasn't a great Portugal side that won it either.
No, and Ronaldo
That was a very average Portugal team that he very much dragged them to that win.
Ronaldo wasn't even on the pitch when they won.
That's true. Yeah,
No,
yeah, he
he
got
was
taken off.
on the sideline talking the game. He'd been injured.
Yeah,
He tore a muscle in his leg. Oh, sorry,
yeah.
Roger is corrected. It was 3 still 1958, 1962, and 1970. Wow.
Was Garincha better, Roger?
But England is so basically, so imagine that England is the team in the middle of that after they won 4.
Yeah.
So you got
Well, they got Pele. Pele swore after the '66 World Cup he'd never play again, didn't he? Because he got kicked out because Brazil played Portugal, I think, in the early rounds, and the Portuguese team was so dirty.
I thought it was I thought that was no, I don't think it was Portugal, wasn't it? Hungary.
Oh, it might have been.
I think it was
Whoever
Hungary.
Pele was getting kicked to ribbons, and
it was Hungary. I think it was Hungary.
Basically said, "That's it. I'm not playing any more World Cups." And then he came back in '70.
The funny thing is, I think at that time Hungary had World Cup pedigree, didn't they? Oh, hold on, what's this? My wife has said, "I like Ronaldo. Nice guy, humble." Thank you.
I think there's a little bit of satire in that.
Yeah.
I don't know your wife that well, but I'm assuming that's.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but generally she believes that he is.
My sarcasm radar is.
So
been tweaked there.
No, I didn't realize that, Roger. It's quite interesting because what that says to me is you've got 1958, they dominated. Then 4 years later, they retake the World Cup. I didn't know that. I didn't even realize a team had done that before. I never knew there was a team that had retaken the World Cup. So that's domination. Then 4 years later, obviously they don't make it because obviously England played Germany. But then 4 years after that, they win it again. Wow, that's
and 70. That was because they'd won it 3 times. They kept the trophy, didn't they?
Oh yeah, I've heard that they retire it once they've won it 3 times. No,
Garincha. I asked about Garincha.
Golden age of Brazil, but he would get my vote. In my life, only 2 sportsmen transcend the sport and were known by everyone in the world: Pele and Muhammad Ali. Yeah, so that 2 players, different sports, transcend. They were put into the stratosphere in terms of being knowledgeable and whatnot. Right, my friend. Now listen to this. This is quite amazing because the conversation that I had on Sunday. So when we had our little discussion afterwards, we were talking about the optimum time period for a show. We said it would be 1 hour, and I said, yeah, I think we'll keep our shows to 1 hour long, and then we'll just that would be great. And then I said, and I think we would struggle to talk for longer than an hour, just me and Chris, even though we've done it before. Then when I spoke with you and you said you'd come on with me, I thought, well, Chris, we may struggle to speak more than an hour. And lo and behold, we've done an hour and a half. So on that note, I believe that we should call it a day. I think that this has been a great show. It's been episode 8 of For More Sport. Please, if you enjoy what you see, please hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, come and join the team. We do a show every Wednesday and every Sunday. On Sunday, hopefully we will. Well, when does a Prem start again? I can't remember. I have to go back and check.
Friday, is it Friday night? Might be a Friday night game.
So we will be back. So
remember that if you're doing fantasy Premier League, there might be a Friday night game.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, you might. So on Sunday, we will be back on Sunday for another episode 9. This is amazing. I'm so excited. Please, if you can, hit that like button, hit subscribe, join us, and check us out for the next show. If you haven't already, make sure you look at the other episodes. They were awesome. We talk about nothing but football. We love football. We do have a bit of banter, but today we were a bit short on the ground. But me and Keith, we flew the flag for More Sport. And guys, if you would like to be on the show, the details that you see are on the bottom. I was meant to put that on for the beginning. I forgot to put it on. So yes, Roger says, be back Sunday. Yeah, but will you be back in the chat or will you be back on the screen? Only time will tell. But guys, you take care. And where is my details? Oh, it's there. We will see you on Sunday. Any last words, Keith, you want to say?
No, just thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks, Johnny.
Yes, you take care, people. Be safe, and we'll see you soon. All right, take care.
Bye.